What's going on? I wanted to bring out some different points about the new update regarding higher education or additional education, as well as an update on the Part 4 series for Johannes Greber. So firstly, I want you to go check out this video. I'm going to put it in the description box and I'm going to pin it in the comment section. And it's by someone whose channel is entitled XJWMJ. And he actually has a few snippets of an interview that he did with me where we are discussing the subject on Johannes Greber. But he did an excellent video on it, and I really like it a lot. So I want you to go check it out as he provides even more background information on it. And you will also get to see some snippets from the interview that we did. And also feel free to check out a lot of his other content as well, because it's great. So I was listening to something earlier, and the guy's name is Maverick. He was highlighting something that his wife said. I always like to highlight things that people say, and I like to give them credit. He was mentioning that his wife shared with him about the convention videos. Do you remember the couple that was coming to, I guess, persuade the young man whom was going to go to Bethel about pursuing higher education and saying things like the end hasn't come yet? They were telling us that in our time. So I find that interesting. When I was thinking about that myself, this is what Maverick brought out that his wife touched on. So why would they have that convention video discouraging higher education, and now just a few months later, an update, go to school? Is that not kind of confusing to people? So this raises the question, and I'm not one to speculate. I don't really get involved with conspiracy theories, but I do entertain them with other people. When I'm referring to, I'll listen to their thoughts and perspectives, but I personally don't promote them. So it's definitely something that requires a little more discernment, because none of this is adding up. So either this could be something dealing with not looking like a cult, or perhaps they want to invest in their future so that people can donate more money since they want these recurring payments. Some of it can be genuine, where they realize that they have no clue when the end is coming, which should have been the proper premise in the first place, the proper stance, because Jesus was clear that nobody knows the day or hour. Matthew 24:36 and Luke 21:8, that you shouldn't follow someone that's saying the due time is near. There's no need to be obsessed with the end of the world. You are just supposed to pay attention to the signs and live accordingly and put your faith and trust in Jesus. There was not a sign of truth. There was just a warning example. It was no different between a doctor telling you to, hey, take care of your body, exercise, prevention is the best medicine. That doesn't make him the best doctor in the world. That doesn't mean that he has the absolute say-so on medicine. See, this is where people aren't thinking. Every Christian organization, even non-Christian organizations like Muslims, and they use the Bible a lot as well, along with the Quran, they also are expecting the return of Christ. So people expecting the return of Christ, or his second coming, as some would say that the Bible talks about, why would there be a sign that you have the truth? Because you're promoting that. The Bible never said that. It warned, though, to be on the lookout for someone always saying the due time is near. And it says, do not follow him. Jesus made it clear in Matthew chapter 23. In Matthew chapter 24, rather, verses 23 through 28. He made it clear. Everybody would know. Not a special people. Said everybody would know, because you're going to see it. It's going to be obvious. But when I think about higher education, why? So the Bible said, be on the lookout for false prophets. Matthew 7:15. It never said be on the lookout for universities. It never said be on the lookout for professors. It never said be on the lookout for higher educators. That's not what we are supposed to be on the lookout for. We are supposed to be on the lookout for false teachers that are giving you false prophecies. There was never anything wrong with going to school for higher education. And it makes me think about Tony Morris' comment when he said that a few years ago that someone had went to university and now he believes in evolution. When you think about that comment, it's kind of deceptive because evolution is a thing, but there's a difference between evolutionary theories and an evolutionist. So clearly, when you study the world carefully, as far as animals and some other things, there are elements of evolution. But that statement is deceptive because he wants you to think that the person became an evolutionist where they're now an atheist or something like that, or they don't believe in God. There's plenty of people that see evidence for evolution that still believe in God because things do evolve. That doesn't mean that you believe that it just popped up and it was a Big Bang theory. See, this is where someone has to think. It's like someone saying that this person, let's reverse that. Let's say that an atheist doesn't want their kid to go to church or whatever because, oh, wow, they came back believing in God. Now, let's say in this person's mind, they had that they didn't want them to believe in the Bible. So maybe they have no issue with you believing in God and being agnostic and believing in a higher creation, but they're trying to protect you from going to a religious service because they don't want you to believe in the Bible. Now, a person could easily attend a Buddhist, Islam, Muslim, Christianity, Hinduism, any of that, and not fully engage with the written word regarding man-made books that they would say, but they can still use their mind and see that you're not just going to see a human being pop up out of nowhere. Somebody had to put the sperm and the egg together to create that zygote to form someone with all his DNA and just so many other scientific things. So a person would say, okay, clearly somebody created this just like an apple seed or a seed. We plant the seeds, but we can't create the seed. So who created the seed? So a person might say, well, clearly there has to be an intelligent maker. So the person believes in God and they go to religion, but they may not necessarily agree with the books. So that person that would try to keep their kid away from religious services is being deceptive because a person could easily use their own brain and not walk away like that. And at the same time, why are you trying to control what the person believes or thinks? For what reason? So that was just something to think about as well. So when I think about that convention video, I find it very interesting that they're showing you that it's wrong to go to school and that it's pretty much worldly, but then they turn around and approve it. So does that make any type of sense? Give me some scriptures that is showing that during the last days, people were supposed to be avoiding higher education. And then all of a sudden, now they can pursue higher education or additional education. None of this is in the Bible. Also pay attention to that update and see how many scriptures are used in that update. For that 17 or 18-minute video, pay attention to how much David Splang is giving his personal philosophy, his personal understanding that's unique to the culture of Watchtower members that has nothing to do with absolute truth or the truth of the Bible. And again, they keep directing you to do things for them, pioneering for them, building buildings for them, serving that belt, the things that they benefit from. God doesn't need any of that. Here's something else to think about. And all of you remember, especially if you just do some research to go into the history of the organization where they used to charge for literature. These are facts. When you think about all those Watchtower magazines and Awakes, remember at one point it was 2 Awakes a month and 2 Watchtowers a month. So there's 4. There was 4 thick little magazines, about 30 pages each. When you think about all the different Bible study aids that they would use, the Live Forever book, the Truth book, the Knowledge book, Life of, the Live Forever book, and then the What Does the Bible Really Teach, and some other books that they used in the past. That is the core of what one would need to come into the organization regarding the truth that they were teaching. That's constantly changing. But when you think about all this other stuff, where they were passing out magazines to people, remember it was recommended that whatever the magazine was on, whether it would be a Watchtower Awake, you would have one week or one month where you would try to place a certain awake or magazine. And a lot of that stuff had nothing to do with the core teachings. You were just placing magazines trying to get people interested in various things. So, and think about all those magazines from 1879 up into 2025 covering different topics. So think about the good news that Jesus preached. Simply repent. He died and rose on the third day. You must believe in Jesus for eternal salvation and practice that. That was it. His resurrection, his baptism, he's the only way you would gain life. So find me where Jesus was trying to go to people's houses and tell them about the economy and all this other stuff. Good information, but that's not the good news. So the good news was constantly changing. So what I'm simply highlighting, all that money that was spent on those magazines where people had to pay for them or give donations for them, none of that was necessary. For example, if the core message, if you're using a What Does the Bible Really Teach book, that's all you need. Just take that and just pass it out to people. That's in the Bible. Why we need all these other magazines, giving the false appearance that we need money for all this stuff? None of that is necessary. Leaving it in people's doors, just throwing it away. That's something that people don't think about. All these books and magazines, even Ecclesiastes talks about the making of many books. None of that is necessary. If you're not using that to bring somebody into the organization, if that's not what's required for your baptism, and again, the Bible doesn't discuss going through a curriculum to get baptized. People were just baptized. All you need is the Bible. So all that money wasted on books and magazines is not necessary. Just use the Live Forever book. If you have all this stuff online right now as well. So it's clear that it's a sales approach. You're trying to, the numbers game. Just pass this information out to as much people as possible, and somebody will respond to it. Even if I do 500 people, if I get 20 people out of that, fine. Then those 20 people, I might get 20 people out of them. But this has nothing to do with promoting a message that is constantly changing. So when you think about things like that, I just find that that's interesting, something to really think about. So again, go check out XJWMJ's video on Johannes Greber. It's about 30 minutes, excellent video. And really think about the difference between what Jesus told you to be on the lookout for. It's very simple. We ought to be on the lookout for a false prophet and false teachers. In that 1969 Awake magazine, where they quoted that those people were not going to grow old. It was a waste of time to go to college. And I'll put that quote again. And some people even have the hard copy of that in the bound volume, and they may even have the magazine. So you're not going to find this online because they don't let you see that, because they don't let you go. The Awake magazines only go back to 1970. But it was definitely there. And they said, face the fact that you would never grow old, and you wouldn't even have time to go to university, and this system would be well on its way. And that was over 50 years ago, well on its way out the door. That was over 50 years ago. If people got old, that was a false prophecy. God cannot lie. The world did not come to an end. There's two false prophecies. God was clear. If somebody speaks in his name and it doesn't come true, God did not send them, do not fear him. You cannot excuse that. If the Bible says do not follow them, and you decide to say, well, they're just imperfect, or like Sanderson said, or Jeffrey Jackson rather, you wouldn't shoot a dog because he was barking and being on the alert because every time he barked and no one was there. But you would be happy if the dog was just being on the alert. That's a poor illustration. No, I wouldn't shoot a dog because the dog wouldn't be saying that he's God's only chosen organization. The dog wouldn't be warning people and telling them to do certain things and have people wasting their lives and making poor decisions. So no, but I would hold a human being accountable like the Bible does with a false prophet saying if you speak in God's name, do not follow them. And they don't have God's favor. I'm going to follow that. It didn't say, well, give them a pass. The Bible says, do not follow them if they just do it one time. So people that are thinking that, well, maybe the organization is going to make some corrections and this will be fine. No, the foundation was wrong. If the roots are wrong, the whole thing is wrong. They've been telling lies and lies and lies and lies. It never came from God. People have to accept that and find the real truth, which is Jesus Christ, and recognize that a religion as a whole is corrupted in many ways, but you can find places for good fellowship. But you don't want to attach yourself to anything that is not approved of God. Or at least have that consciousness to know that you're not in this seeking God. Maybe you're just trying to maintain family relationships or some things along that sort. But don't stop touching the unclean thing. Don't think that the illustration they would use, that you're going to go in a room with a skunk and think that you're not going to come out smelling like the skunk. So you have to be able, like Jesus said, if you deny me before man, I will deny you before the Father. He said he came to put division between mother, brother, father. Well, not father, but mother-in-law and sister-in-law. So we have to remember and either say that we're following Christ in the Bible or not. We can't keep making our own rules and standards. Well, that is fine. I don't have to. No. It's important. So take care, like, subscribe, comment, and share your thoughts further on just various things, whether it be higher education, things along that sort. And also, people need to understand when it comes down to atheism and agnostics, things on that sort. I have a technique that I'm using. I'm studying. I'm taking a year or so to gather thoughts. I like to do my blind studies, and my approaches are different. I can't tell you everything, but when I come out and discuss certain things, I'm not debating those things. It's a discussion. And I know that many people want to debate this, but it won't even be a debate because you won't be able to debate what's true. I will never, one thing, the art of debating, I personally never enter an argument that if I think that I'm wrong, because I've already proven the facts. So I have to see every last angle that an agnostic or atheist has. I have to study those things carefully. I have to let it get deep into my consciousness. I have to give it time to see rebuttals, but being guided by love mainly. And what happens, every few months I get a revelation. So, and I'll know when it's time to do that because I have to have the proper motives in place as well. So I am studying that very, very carefully. And I know that some people have opinions. I welcome those opinions, but some people don't see my approaches or have the vision that I have and understand certain things, which is okay. I've been encountering that since I was 17 years old, where people told me not to start my business. I wouldn't be successful. And I don't listen to any of those things. I listen to my intuition, my inner voice. I have never been wrong. And I know when God has guided me on certain things. So that is going to be fascinating. And but I will engage in a discussion, just not yet. My studies aren't complete. And again, I always give my weakest arguments as I study the more powerful arguments. And as I'm constantly studying several people, the best of the best, and seeing their issues on certain things, because I really want to expose certain things on various things that have not been fully discussed. And what's going to happen, either people are going to realize certain things about God and history or religion or certain things, or they're just going to keep making excuses and trying to explain God away, which is fine. But Romans chapter 1 and verses 18 through 20 is true, whether you believe in the Bible or not. So have a good one. Thank you.